Hi Grander School, this is Uboat. On this video I'll be going over a session of mine that I recorded a few months ago. I usually try to record my session a few times a week. The reason why I record my session is that viewing these sessions excuse me, allow me to review my game without missing any factors that I have missed during the actual game. I recorded this session back in May, and reviewing it now in July gives me a fresh perspective on how I have played. And I save any sessions where I believe I did not play optimally. So let's begin this video. And as you can see, although this is 25 PLO, the two tables are just filled with fish. We have 53.7, 83.13, now 42.17, here 62.8. And what we can get from these kind of stats is that, they're going to play a very loose passive style, and most of them tend to play a fitter fold post flop, so we definitely should be taking advantage of this. And on table number 1 with 4, 6, 9 deuce, we're going to fold that, and table number 2, that was a fold. And when I play on tables as loose as these, I'm going to check that, let's see what we hit. And we have top and bottom two pair. We'll definitely take a shot at this flop to take the pots down, because these loose passive player gives too much credit for any c-bet, and we'll fold to any re-raise. And as I was saying that these players tend, and deuce, king jack 9, let's fold from the small blind. And these loose passive players, they're fitter folds, so we definitely want to take advantage of that. So if they show any weakness, we want to take a shot. But the thing is, when we bluff, we want to make sure that we have some kind of hand, like a two pair, or maybe some backdoor straight draw or a flush draw. Because we don't want to make a bluff without anything, because these players tend to call down with anything, even a pair of sixes. And I guess on this session, I probably thought the background was too dark, so I'm making it bright. And on table number 2, it was a monochrome board. If I was in position, I would definitely take a shot. And maybe on this one too, because I do have ace to the club, so I would definitely take a shot and try to take this flop down, which I should be able to, considering. Although we don't need too many hands on that player, we should be able to take it down. And on this, we'll bet again, because this guy is pretty tight for PLO, so we're going to triple barrel him. And I think we should be able to fold that type of player out. So anytime when you have these players with very tight stats, like 13-13, we want to be very aggressive when we're in position against these type of players. And if they call us down, we want to see their cards and see what kind of cards they show at showdown. And with this one, we'll definitely call if it's limped in. And I think even if it's a raise, we'll definitely call, because this, good chance for top two pairs, the nutted straight draw or nutted flush draw, being suited to the ace of spades. And I think we should be able to take that down, and we did. So far we're not making too much mistakes, and we have junky. I'm taking notes here, because remember, we want to take notes on players who limp and fold. We want to take advantage of that. That will be a money-making machine against those kind of players. With trashy aces, we just want to bet out on this kind of board. It's pretty dry, so I think we're well ahead of these two players, but we'll definitely fold to any re-raise. And if they call, we're going to be very cautious on the turn. And on this table number 2, we'll definitely call. That was 5, 6, 7 suited to the queen. We do have a chance. It's well cornered, 3 cards, or I guess did I fold? Well, fold isn't too bad. Yeah, and we're going to check back, because any of these players can have a queen, and we should always be cautious when these loose passive players. And we'll bet out. Anytime I do this, I'll bet out, because I think they really didn't have anything. They may have queens and probably no hearts. And they may have seen very loose play on my part, but these are very fiddle fork players, and they checked back on the turn, so Now, since we had, I think it was the fourth or fifth nut flush, we'll definitely take a shot at that. Yeah, table number one, definitely worth raising for value against these type of players. And we hit top, middle, two pair. We'll definitely bet to take that down. We also want to bet big, especially, I mean, it's kind of a wet board, and we always want to bet as if we had a hand too, okay? Well, we do have a hand, but we also want to bet pretty strong on that. So far, not too many mistakes. And 6-3-3-4, I'm going to definitely fold that. Against these loose passive players, it's not a big mistake calling, but with that raise, we're going to definitely fold from the small blind being out of position. And as you can see on my stats, especially on table number two, I'm 42-32. So, I mean, when you're playing against these kind of players, you want to play as many hands as you can against them. So sometimes, sometimes when I look at my stats, I might be like 50-40. So, I don't worry too much about what your stats are, because these players are not looking at your stats. This player raises, I mean, I think right now I would fold, because it's not suited to the ace. But nothing wrong with calling, but I'll definitely make a fold. And I guess I called since I am in position. But I think I would, when I look back at it now, I'll definitely make a fold. If that was suited to diamonds, I would definitely call. And on this, we have top two pair on a wet board, and I'm going to definitely take a shot on this one. Because we have position, everyone checked, and we're going to take a shot. And if someone calls, we're going to give up on the turn. We always want to bet close to pot, especially on the multi-way. We don't want to give any sign of weakness here, okay? Because they're going to either check raise you, or they're going to just call you down, because they won't believe what we have. And I really doubt they would put us in range. And as you can see, we're definitely taking advantage of these fitter-fold loose passive players by taking these pots down on the flop and on the turn. And with king 5-5, it's a crappy hand. I mean, the only possible hand that we can hit big. Okay, table number two, definitely raise with a gutter and the second nut flush. And he calls and we hit it. Definitely pot. I'll definitely pot close to pot, 85-90%. And we hit the bottom set. We'll definitely take a shot at this flop on table number one. I'd probably give up to any re-raise. Oh, geez, and table number two, and we're going to call that. I don't think he really has much. Oh, we split the pot. And I hate splitting the pot because we're just giving money to poker starters. And on table number one, yeah, we check back on all the other player calls. Someone could easily have 9-9 or have a made flush made straight, and we just don't want to call this bet. We want to fold that. Good. Yeah, on a board like that, no point bluffing on that kind of board. Maybe just a better speed on that river. So queen, jack, 7, king suited to the queen. Definitely a raise from middle position against these loose passive players. If the table is filled with regulars, regs, or tags, I'd definitely fold that from middle position. Fold that hand, table number one. Table number two, definitely easy fold. We don't want those 3 diamonds, which lessens the chance that we're going to hit a flush draw if we do hit the flop. And as you can see, I am always constantly labeling and relabeling these players on these sessions. And you gotta love 25 PLO because, first of all, they're filled with loose passive players, and even if they seem tagged, they're very fit or fold post flop. And one thing is, most of these players at these micro stakes, they will always try to float on the flop, but it's a turn in the river where if you have some kind of backdoor draws, you should definitely bluff if you don't think they have a hand or they have any weak hands. So definitely 9, 10, deuce, 4, that's a fold from the small blind. What do you have? What was I looking at? And we're kind of cut off here. And fold on table number 2. And table number 1 should be... Yeah, so yeah, the boat. So I took note on that. That's a fold 9, Jack 5, King. If that 5 was, say, maybe a queen, or even queen, I would definitely call that. I had a gutter and a rainbow board. Not that great. And just looking at these two tables, you can understand why I had a problem moving up to 50 PLO and above, because I mean tables are so soft. Even if you don't play optimally, you can probably win overall in a session. Yeah, even when I was just spewing chips, I was still up most of the time playing 25 PLO. Especially this year, I got a little bit more solid on making reads against players. And that's what PLO does. I mean, that's what it did for me. Playing in position, and actually, especially playing in position with 4 cards, and by the bet sizing and what kind of play they have pre-flop to the flop and the turn, you kind of get an idea of what range they have, which makes it really easy when you can kind of eliminate many of the cards. And with these loose passive players, it's kind of difficult to put them on the range. Against tags, it's definitely easier, but on loose passive players, all you got to do is that, hopefully we can see, what you want to do is you want to see their hands at showdown and see what kind of hands they call you down with. Like this guy, he had a set, and he had a better set. You always have to be worried when you have hit a set that's like 10 or less. You always want to be worried about losing set over set. That's not the hand. Table number 2, that's a fold. There's no suitedness on that hand, so it's a really trashy hand to have. And this guy had the straight. I don't think that was the hand I was looking for. Definitely a raise on table number 2 with ace, queen, 9, jack. It's a little bit gappy with missing the king and the 10, but it's double suited and it's almost Broadway cards, and it's going to hit well against these loose passive players, even if we are opening for middle position. I think we're well ahead of these players' range. We have these short stackers, and if they hit anything and if he calls, we're going to just get it in against them, especially against this. This kind of hand, I'm going to just get it in and try to get both of their stacks. Hopefully. You don't want to play too passively on these spots. And I like the bet of $2. When he calls, and we're going to try to get it on the turn. Yeah, we'll try to barrel and just get a stack in. And we hit, well, someone hit the boat, but I really doubt it. I'm not folding, we'll just get the rest of his $2.40. What do I do? I'm getting him to pay him. Right, we'll call. And we hit it. Because I was trying to induce him to just put it all in. And these players, they're not aware of stack to pot ratio, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. They're just looking at their cards. And I think stack to pot ratio, I don't think players are really looking at that until they reach maybe 50 or 100 PLO, so I don't worry too much about that at these stakes. So call to street and bet river with top pair of 9. And the flush draw, which wasn't too bad. At the first short stacker, that wasn't too bad. You should just jammed it right in. But I would have never folded against this short stacker. We have aces, and there's kind of connectivity, and we have a suited ace to the diamonds, and that's a decent hand where if someone 3-bet, we're going to 4-bet all in, try to get our stacks in on the flop. Almost anything on the flop, I guess. And that's what you want. Anytime when you have aces, you want these connected with like 7-8 or 9-10 or Jack-10. Because it gives you so many potential to get a straight draw. And that's what we always want. We also want to back up with our whole cards. When we hit two pair, on a very wet board, that's definitely worth betting against passive players. Because they're calling a lot of junk. They call and bet one more time, barrel again. We should get it. He could easily have, maybe something like, I don't know, 5-6, trying to a straight draw. So, and you also want to stay aggressive against these loose passes, unless they show some aggressiveness and you want to fold or check fold on the next street. 265, junky hand. Only reason why we would play that is since no one raised, we're going to check on the big blind. Even if we hit a 6, I don't know, we'll definitely take a shot at the pot. And not a great, and we just have a gutter. Definitely fold, easy fold. Table number 2, 7 deuce, queen 7 is a fold from the button. Yeah, the nice thing about reviewing these pre-recorded sessions a couple months later is because I totally forgot what happened, and it gives me kind of a new, I guess, new perspective on how I played. On this, I definitely call against that. Maybe shove it, jam it in. I would have jammed it in with the jacks. It's a short stack. And what are we afraid of? And see, and now, I mean, we're multi-way. I don't like how I played that. I think I should have jammed that instead of playing that passively. Because we're out of position, and we won't, be aggressive when we're out of position, especially when we have the potential to fold this guy out. And on this one, we're gonna have to fold. And table number 2, that's an easy fold. Yeah, I thought that previous hand on table number 1, I played it too passively, and it cost me the pot. I think with a pair of jacks, if I raised, I would have probably maybe folded out this, ASB of 100, and hopefully Django would have put a stack, and we had a chance to get a stack. And the monochrome board like this, when we're heads up, I also want to take a shot, whether I'm in position or out of position. I want to bet full pot and rep the ace high flush and fold out the other player. Table number 2, that should be an easy fold. Table number 1, that's a fold. Anytime when you have these pairs, it really weakens our hand because it lessens the chance that we're going to hit the straight draw on the flop or the turn. So anytime when we have those low pair hands, even high pairs, even personally, even jacks and queens, I'm not too crazy about those. I'd rather have a rundown hand. And another common mistake that these players microstate make is they overplay their pairs just too much, and they underplay their rundowns. They play their rundowns very passively. And I used to do that too, and that's a mistake I made. But the rundowns are such powerful hands in pot limit Omaha, and anytime when you have something like Jack 10, 9, 8, or even Jack 10, 9, 7, or even Jack 10, 8, 7, and single suited or double suited, you want to raise those hands because those are powerful hands in pot limit Omaha. And pairs are overplayed too much, and you will probably have a good chance of stacking those people who raise with pair XX hand. So I definitely call against this loose passive guy. So he can fold. How often does he open? He's kind of tight. He doesn't attempt to steal that, so I'm calling. Whereas his attempt to steal is pretty high. I'll definitely 3-betting with that hand. And this is worth leading out with top pair. If he calls, I'd put him on a flush draw, or maybe even 2 pairs. Ten king ace 5. That's not. It's worth taking a call if he's pretty passive early position. Yeah, I guess he was. And we do have a good chance of hitting the flop hard, and not that great of a flop. But if everyone checks, we'll definitely take a shot at the flop and take it down. Remember, when you look at our hands, we weren't dealt monster. Okay, that's $1 bet. I don't mind re-raising. I wouldn't call it. It would be either re-raise or fold. I wouldn't want to call that hand. If I raise maybe 350, or it has to be a fold. Yeah, it's not too bad. Either way, it's a good play. Ace is queen queen. Only thing that sucks is it has no suitedness to send. I'll definitely re-raise against this donkey. Hopefully we get some other guy to 3-bet us and we can get it all in. And ace is queen queen. That's, even though it's not suited, it's still a very powerful hand. We have a chance to hit tops out very easily. And possible straight draw. And hopefully he called. And he calls. Awesome. And we're going to get it in. We have SPR of 2, so we definitely want to get that and get a stack in. If he has king exercise, he's not going to fold. And he re-raises us. Jeez. It should be a fold, but let's see what he has. I think he has it. No, we had it. See, he just had kings and he got really over aggressive. Definitely take notes on that. I hope I do. Yeah, he didn't have too much left on this stat, so good call. Yeah, he's a limp fold, all in with nothing. Well, top pair. Well, basically nothing. Top pair is basically nothing in public Omaha. And I think maybe he's a new player, trying his hands at Public Omaha. And remember, the common thing when you play No Limit is, when you have pair of aces, pair of kings, no one folds that in No Limit. But in Public Omaha, even aces and kings, it's kind of junky at best. It's not that great. What you want is, like this kind of hand, although we have a dangler, we'll definitely raise that from the button. Like that 9, Jack, 10 is really well connected, although we have 4 spades. And against this player, I think I would be okay to re-raise, 3-bet or call. See the flop cheap, but I don't know, right now when I look at it, I would rather 3-bet that guy. And see how he plays. Yeah, he should have 3-bet that guy, I think. We have top 2 pair, definitely worth a bet. Yeah, we should be able to take it down. This 42-26 is not a bad stat, so I don't really classify him as too passive. He has a very high PFR of 26, so he's a solid raiser, but a little bit calls, a little bit too much. But we don't know. Because the key thing is how they play post-flop and pot limit almost. So I would, the pre-flop stats. Okay, now we should slow down on table number 1, and we should check back. Someone could have any flush. So let's fold on table number 2. I hate the jacks. When did I stack someone? I guess I missed that one. Because I was paying too much attention to table number 2. You know what? I'm going to pause it. Go back it up. We're at 2250. I'm going to stack some. 2250. Oh yeah. Is that AC side? So 2250. Oh, that's close enough. Okay. So deuce 9, 3, 10. That's an easy fold. And what I'm looking at is I'm just seeing, whether they play position or not. If they play position and they open at early position, I'm less likely to 3-bet it because they probably have a strong range. Whereas if they have very high VPI, PPFR stat at early position, I'm going to put them on a wide range. I'll probably more likely 3-bet and I'll definitely make a call for sure and play them in position. And you also want to be aware of the player tendencies at these tables. And you also want to be constantly looking because remember, we only have like 41 hands, 31 hands. And these stats are, it's a very short, small sample. But with these small samples, we can kind of estimate what kind of player types they are. And we know that, well, first of all, we're at 25 PLO, so we know that they're very loose passive, and even if they're tight, they'll kind of lean towards the tight passive fiddle fold type of players. And what's really important is if you're able to see their hands at showdown, what kind of cards that they go to showdown with. And on this one, since we're playing against kind of semi-loose passive players, but yeah, we don't have anything else. So yeah, check back and see if we can increase our equity on the turn. But yeah, because we have a naked flush draw, nothing else. I think I'll check back. Yeah. Yeah, and again, we just want to focus on player tendencies, and if we do see their hands show, then we want to take notes on that so that on future hands, if we get to a very difficult spot on the turn of the river, we know what type of hand they call down with, and we can either bet or just slow down our hand. Decent hand on table number 2 with 7, Queen, 10, Jack. I'll definitely make a call. I'll call any 3-bet, even though we're out of position. It's definitely a call. If it's suited to the queen, I would consider maybe re-raising, but I think that's definitely a call at the big blind. Even though we do have a dangler, I think it's a hand that kind of beats most of these players' ranges. However, King 8-8 is not a great card for us. We do have, if that was like King 9-9, we would have inside grab, but this one not that great. I'll definitely fold. And we're out of position. We don't want to fold that flop. Although I do think he may be bluffing. 7 deuce 3-3, that's an easy fold. And 6-2, 6-6-3, again we have the pair of sixes, which really sucks, and pair of threes really sucks. So anytime when you have those pairs of 10 or less, it really sucks to have it in your hand, because even if you hit the set, although the chances of losing set over set is low, you don't want to overplay those cards, because I think I will put another table. You don't want to overplay those cards, because when you do lose set over set, it's usually a big pot or your stack. So that's what we want to avoid. That's why we want to play those middle or low sets very slow. Yeah, these are really nice tables. No, I mean, aside from this player, I mean, only 8 hands, but we got a tight passive here. Very kind of loose, semi-aggressive, loose, passive, well, semi-aggressive, very tight player. We can take advantage by stealing their blinds. So anytime when you have these tight players to your left, you want to steal their blinds when everyone folds to you when you're on the button, or even on the cutoff. Or if they have the button and you're on the cutoff, you want to always make a bet, because they'll probably fold, and you'll have position against everyone at the table. Table number 2, one that was a fold. I think table number 1 was kind of seemed like it was kind of seemed like people were leaving. Maybe that's why I opened that third table. And I do play very cramped, as you can see. Like, I didn't really make this video. I mean, record this session to make as a video for grind school. I just did it for myself, and as you can see, I play very cramped because I play on a very small screen. I have a 13-inch MacBook that I play on, and very different. And that was a good. The reason why I folded was it was non-suited queen. He was kind of he's playing fairly solid, so that's why I made the fold. Although he's probably a down because he didn't top up on his stack. So I have 3 tables going, and I have these. Donks to my left, I prefer them to have them on my right, but when they lose passive, whether they're to your right or left, you can definitely outplay them. And I'm just wondering why I saved this, because I seem to be playing okay. Maybe I made a mistake. When I play poker, my attention span is between 60 to 90 minutes. And they're very short sessions, and I'll play those sessions maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And on days that I don't feel too great about playing poker, I will probably watch videos and go over these past sessions that I recorded and try to spot any mistakes, especially playing against player types. Table number 2, definitely a raise, although it's not suited to the ace. We have a chance to hit the straight draw. I hit the dangler of number 7, of the 7, but we do have that weak passive players to our left, so I think it's going to fold well, or maybe I fold. It's a good fold too. I think maybe lately, since I've been opening up my game a little too much, maybe I found that fold become tight, and I would have top 2 pair. And good thing I made the fold. And I think that's what's happened to me in my game. Like first when I started playing Pablo Noma, I was playing super tight. And then I started get kind of a little bit too loose, and then I reined down that, and I got a little bit too tight again. And I'm on the phase of my game where I'm kind of maybe not as loose as I played like late last year, but maybe like not loose than say 2 months ago. Definitely, ooh, that's debatable. That could be a fold or a call. It's definitely not a bad hand. Yeah, but we have just an open-ender, not worth betting. An open-ender, open-ender in pot limit Omaha, it's just a mediocre draw. We don't want wraps. We want something with 9+ outs and open-ended straight draw. Just a naked open-ended straight draw is not that great. If we had maybe a backdoor draw to the flush or a better straight, that would have been okay to call, but we just have a 8 outs, not very good to call with. Not a good hand to just fold with. And not too many great hands so far. That's definitely a fold. We have a very loose passive player here. We don't want to open with any garbage hand. And that's an easy fold, although these are 3 loose passive players. That hand is not going to play well multi-way, because we don't have the potential for. Oh, and I called. I think that's a really bad play. Yeah, because that's what's going to happen. I think that was a really bad call on my part. Anytime when you call with these kind of hands, it's not going to hit the flop hard. And even if you hit the flop, you have reverse implied outs. That was definitely a no-no on my part. Definitely a mistake. So please don't do that, especially when you're out of position. Yeah, this one we're going to get it in. If I was say King 8-8, I'll probably not re-raise. I'll just call in position. But with King 10-10 plus, I'll definitely re-raise and get it in. This one definitely a call on table number 2, where I played that previous hand horribly. Just utter spew on. And remember, we don't want to. I know we have 4 cards, but you don't want to call 3 bets too light or too often. I like to stay on the tight range when calling 3 bets, especially when we're out of position, because playing out of position is so difficult in Parliament Omaha at these stakes too. And we're going to definitely bet out on that. It's such a dry board when we have top pair. And we have a couple of cards that will kind of play really well on the turn. 6, that's not too bad. Definitely barrel again. Yeah, whoa, I'll definitely check back now. $4. That's a tough idea. Hopefully I go back on that hand again. Please, the upper stars replayer. And I didn't. Yeah, that's such a small bet. I think you wanted to call us. Maybe he had top 2 pair. Got nothing bad with folding that hand. Oh, and just to review, my stats are the name, number of hands, aggression frequency, VPIP here, PFR, attempt to steal the blind, fold to steal blind, 3-bet pre-flop, fold to 3-bet, continuation bet on the flop, and aggression frequency on the turn. This is definitely a raise from on table number 2. Table number 1, it's definitely worth a call with that hand, but I just hate the 9-9. It's okay to fold that hand with that 8-9. I mean 8-jack-9-9. That's the fold on table number 3. I think table number 2. What happened? Ooh, I'll have to check back. That didn't really hit our hands very hard. Probably hit maybe the big blind's hand. I did fold on table number 1. Yeah, fold on table number 2. So fold on table number 3. Yeah, we'll let you know that. 17. Jeez. Well, maybe he hit the 3-5, the 3-5 XX. It's the only hand that I could see him playing because he has very low aggression frequency. He's very loose passive, and when a player like that shows that kind of aggression, you want to fold. And even if they call you on the turn, that's kind of a dangerous sign. And that will definitely slow down on the river against these loose passive players. Unless I have a monster myself, or even like the second nut. Second nuts. Definitely worth a call, I think. I wouldn't raise with tens. Table number 3, that's definitely worth 3-betting. Full pot, max, good. That's raising for value. It's not to ISO raise, but raising for value here, and I want to get a stack in. And I'm going to get it in. I have a gutter. Maybe these short stacks, I'll get it in. Definitely call in table number 1. We hit the nuts on table number 1. Definitely on raise there. Yeah, on table number 1, I would bet in close pot and get a stack in there. Table number 2, that's a fold. And we got to get it on table number 1 too. Although we do have the third nutted flush to the hearts, we need to kick down on table number 3. We're bet close to pot, especially when we're 2 ways and we have these short stackers. Definitely raise on table number 3. Yeah, hopefully he jams it in. We only have 6 hands on them. Oh. Yeah, no, we gotta jam it in. We only have 7 balls and 15 cents left. Jam it in. Get his pot. Hopefully he calls with maybe a jack high flush. And he calls. Number 1 to 3. We get the stacks. And you always want to play aggressively here. You don't want to be scared just because the board pairs. It's very unlikely that they have the board. And look, he had, I guess, the straight. Oh no, he didn't. Let's make it a puzzle. Did he have? Yeah, he basically had nothing. And this guy just had top pair. So see, as you can see, they're going all in with nothing. And don't let these boards pairing on the turn or river scare you, especially against short stackers. And you want to stay aggressive and don't have those monster under the bed syndrome, because I know this is Parliament Omaha and it's a good chance that they could have the hand. But if you have any kind of reads on them, just don't want to fold, especially this one. I'll definitely take notes on that player, that he just keeps calling down on draws. Wow. That is, we would love to have this kind of player all the time. Just keep going. Good, so all in with what? with nothing. All in with draws. I mean, he did have the inside wrap, but that's only 9 outs. Um, not that great to go on 9 outs on the flop. 27. He should just went all in on the flop. We're gonna definitely, raise the value on the button. Table number 2. So we do have a suited ace and it's a fairly strong hand. And we get a caller by this Django, who we also saw on table number 1. He's fully stacked, so that's good. So we'll play in position against him. And this ABSO is kind of a dog tooth. He goes all in with top pair as we saw in the previous hand. We shouldn't worry about that guy. Eight, 9, 10 suited to 10. I definitely call that. We have a very low dangler. I don't think it's. If I was in position, if I was on button, I would raise that hand. But at the big blind, I would raise. I just call. Check back since we're in the big blind. Although we're not dealt the greatest hands, we're definitely getting some action from. Okay, I'll definitely raise here. It's a monochrome board. He made a very weak bet, maybe 1/3 pot. I'll definitely re-raise, maybe to like 450. But if he calls, we need to give up on the turn and check back. And we're going to check back on the turn and the river, and we'll just give up if he calls this bet, because he's a loose passive player. And if he calls, he calls. And we got to give up and go on with the next hand. Oh boy, this is, again, no wonder I saved this session. That was spew. That's total spew. That's a bad play. He's a loose pass player. He called. Okay, I'm going to pause this. He called. Oh, perfect. He called my raise on the flop, which means he hit the nuts, or basically the nuts. He was well ahead of my range, and on the turn I should have gave that up. But definitely a misread. This is the reason why I started visualization a few months back, because once in a while, like maybe once or twice a month, I do make these mistakes against these loose passive players where I just stay aggressive when I should just be pulling back. And definitely a hand like this, when you raise him, bluff him to blow him off that flop and he calls, you know that he's got the nuts or the near nuts. And on the turn, when we have nothing ourselves, we should give up and we should never barrel and we should never continue with the bluff. So that was a big mistake. And I think that's probably the reason why I saved this too. So again, I guess loose passive player, after we bluff him once, we don't, and if he calls, we don't want to bluff him again because they do have the nuts. So let's continue. So table number 2, I lost close to half a stack. Very expensive. Table number 2, I'm going to raise that. And what we don't want to do is, although if we make a mistake, you don't want to tilt. You just want to still keep playing your game and not make that mistake again. Yeah, because that was just giving him the chips. I should just gave him the $13 even before the hand. We don't want to do that, and that's what I basically did. Just gave him the money. We have a gutter. We're in relative position because that's a loose pass player, but we'll definitely see the turn, and it doesn't improve. Table number 1, that's definitely worth a raise. Table number 2, that's we're gonna 3-bet him. Check back, good, and we're gonna fold that. That hand will not play well. Oof. But we hit it inside wrap. Oh, and we hit the nuts on number 3. But inside wrap, so definitely worth the call. I'll raise that and get it in. Definitely raise it and get it in. If anyone re-raise it, we'll get it in. Put it inside wrap. Yeah, and we hit it. Awesome. I will definitely call this limp, even raise it, even though we're out of positions. That's just a good chance for it to hit the flat top two pairs straight draw. The third nut flush draw, and against these loose passive players, it's not a bad. It's a great hand. With regular, I wouldn't raise that hand. I'd probably more likely for that. I would definitely try to take this pot. The top bottom pair against this loose passive player. He calls back. I'm going to barrel him again. We do have. I think we're still well ahead of his range, and definitely raise that on table number one. And I'll barrel that again on table number two. I'm going to give up on table number three. We'll definitely such a drive where we gotta take a shot at that on table number one. And we took that pot down on table number two. That's good. And he called, so now we're gonna slow it down and give up because we got no outs here. We're gonna give that up against the jungle. Let him have that. And he did have kings. I think I'm a spewy player. Oh, we have the bottom graph on this hand. We gotta play this cautiously, I think. But definitely against these kind of players, definitely not fold, yeah. This one everyone gives up. No, let's just check back. We have a gutter here. Check back. Definitely raise on table number two with trashy kings. And now fold on table number one. So 40 minutes into this session, I was making mistakes against this guy who's in this table number one and table number two. We hit the nuts and maybe half pot. Feels like we're taking a stab at the pot. Hopefully we get colors. We take that down, and we're going to give up that hand in table number one. We basically have nothing except 4 or 5s. We don't have position. I'll just check back and give up. Now, 2 pairs. I'm going to take a stab at that pot on table number one. I guess I didn't. And we'll call that. Oh, yeah, full house. Jeez. It's a good play on that. 5, 6, 7, jack. If we're folded, if this guy folds, we're going to raise that against the Django guy. Although we're out of position, I think we have some connectivity to this hand. Although we lost a couple small pots and one big 50 BB pot against him. Table number two, that's a fold. 2, 3, 4 cream, really junky hand, especially up under the gun. I'm going to take a stab at this. Definitely hits our range for sure. His range too. He's been calling quite a bit. Ooh, that's debatable. He could check back or take a stab at that again, but when he calls, yeah, I think it's better to check back. But I'm going to give that up on table number one. I think he's been getting dealt. He's been hitting the board quite often, the last few hands, so we're going to give that up. Yeah, and he hit pair of 9s. Fold that from the button, although we do have a poster here. I do like to raise full pot when we have posters, but I'm going to fold that because that was such a bad hand. Doesn't play well, multi-way. Table number 2, 6, 9, 8, 4 against a loose passive raiser. I'll fold that. If that was maybe suited to the 9, maybe worth a call, but we're also out of position. That's a fold. Table number 2 again, 3, king, deuce, 9, that's a fold. Even if you fold it, you will fold that hand against this loose passive player. He'll call and he won't fold. number 1 looks like it's breaking up, but we do have these passive players. We try to get a stack. He's deep, so we don't want to leave that table. We got a very tight player. We can take advantage of him. Hopefully we 3-bet him. I don't think we played him too much. It's a sad top pair. What do you have? We'll fold deuce 6. Well, yeah, cut off. Yeah, we'll fold deuce 6. Doesn't have too much connectivity. Table number 2. Okay, I guess we're forced to check back with a junky hand like that. Yes, we check back. Table number 2 will definitely call. If that suits a jack, I didn't quite see that card. It's a nice hand that we're dealt in table number 3. And we'll definitely take a raise, call back. When we hit the nuts on table number 3, we'll definitely raise. 5, 4, 3, fold. When we have bottom 2 pair, we want to fold those. Remember, another mistake that a lot of no-limit players make when they transition to PLO is they overplay their 2 pair, whether it's top 2 pair, bottom 2 pair, or top and bottom 2 pair. You want to fold that hand to any sign of aggression because it's almost junky hand in pot limit Omaha. And you'll see many players at these micro-6 coming down with 2 pairs when there's a straight made and a flush made board. So you want to play those 2 pairs cautiously. Table number 2 is a hand that's definitely worth a raise if you're folded to. And depending on how often that button raises on table number 2, I would call. If his attempt to seal is higher, I would definitely call, but on this one fold. It's just too tight. 13-9 is like just too tight for Polynomial Omaha. When you're playing that tight in Polynomial Omaha, you're losing money. You're not making money there. I mean, that's the only stats that I would be worried about, having too tight VPIP and PFL. Like anything, VPIP, anything below 15, and PFR, anything below, say, 10. Just playing too tight. And maybe what I'll do, that gives me an idea. What I'll also do is after the session, I think I played this on May 24th, I'll open up my poker tracker and see how I played my position, how often I opened from the button, cut off, middle position, under the gun, and from the blinds. And you'll kind of get an idea of how often I open from the button. I should be opening pretty close to 50% or more from the button. I mean, sometimes I do open like 70% from the button, especially at higher stakes like 50 and 100 PLO. Definitely a good raise on table number 2, although it's not suited to the ace. I think we're well ahead of these players' range, and we don't hit it, but heads up, I don't mind taking a shot at that, like maybe $1.25. Yeah. And then now once we check back, we get check back, I don't think. He's loose passive. I thought, yeah, definitely check back. Okay, we took it down. Table number 1, definitely a raise with ace 10, jack 8. It's a very good hand. With good connectivity, that's going to flop well, especially against these monkeys. And we're not in position. I'll check back on that one. We do have the backdoor flush draw. I mean, it's definitely worth a float if the button bets. Check back. Good. We'll definitely float that hand. Yeah, $1.50 is not very strong, but we'll definitely float that. Hopefully we float it. So I definitely wasn't too, G7 like that. Well, I guess we're out of position. But I think that was definitely worth the float. Because that was such a weak bet on the flop. And that's another really important thing about Parliament Omaha, based on the bet sizing on the flop. I mean, bet sizing on any street, you can kind of get a good idea of what kind of hands that they have. Table number 1, we're going to give that up. Yeah, fold, easy fold. And table number 2, that's worth a re-raise. It's a very strong ace. Suited to the ace, and then we have queen 10. Now, you can hit the straight draw, the nut flush draw, top set. I mean, there's so many different possibilities. And if someone 4-bets us, we're going to get it in, especially with aces. As you can see, table number 2, look at my stats, it's 53-41, my VPI PPFR. Seems very loose aggressive, and I think maybe the CF Eternal, I think I'm just a maniac, so probably I'd be surprised if they shove it, if he uses a HUD. Perfect, if he shoves it, we're going to shove back and just get our stats in. 8-9, we do have an open-ended straight draw. We don't, remember it's not the nuts. Yeah, we're going to call that jam. And it's so rare to see a jam. It's not a great flop, but I think we have it. Yes, we do. So if someone 4-bets us and we have aces, even chunky aces, I'd just get that in. And you can play perfectly, because on the flop you can have less than a pot size bet on the flop, and you can just jam your stack in. It'll never be a mistake. 4-5 Jack Jack, that's definitely worth open raise. I mean, 4-5 not great, but we do have a chance to get some kind of mediocre straight draw. We're going to bet that. But King Deuce is always tried. We're going to always bet that. And table number 3, definitely worth a call with jacks and suited ace. And not a great flop. Definitely, we're going to give up that flop. We'll check back for sure. 10-5, 4-7 on table number 1. That's definitely a fold at the cutoff. Yeah, so I think this session kind of gives you an idea of how soft the tables are at Potluck Omaha. So if you're one of those players who are just hating it at no limit because the tables are so tight or filled with tags and rags, I mean, welcome to Potluck Omaha. And playing Potluck Omaha, I think it does make you a better player because you are forced to make reads and playing position a lot more. Sometimes, you'll play your, no matter what kind of cards you have, as long as you have position, if they show any sign of weakness, we have the ability to, we have definitely an awesome card on table number 1. Table number 2, definitely with a call. We're going to check back, and hopefully the turn gives us a diamond so we can hit it. Ooh. I think I'd check back on table number 2. Bottom 2 pairs basically junk. Table number 3, that was junk. I think when you have 3 10s or 3 9s, it's just junk. I'll definitely take a shot at 5-8-6. I'll definitely bet out on table number 1, but I'll just slow down if I get any calls. And they, I could bet $1.70. I'll fold. It's a tight player. It's 14-6. And he doesn't c-bet very often. That's a good fold. And you gotta be able to fold those aces and kings to any sign of aggression by these tight passive or loose passive players. Because remember, aces, I mean top pairs, it's just nothing Potluck Omaha because there's always better draws on the following streets. Ace, Jack, 6, King. I guess we have nothing else to do but check back. I mean, if it's suited ace, I would definitely raise. Yeah, and we didn't hit the flop very well. We're going to give that up. And if you notice my c-bet stat, it's like 60%, 64%. Like usually it hovers around 50 to 70%. you never want to c-bet too much because that's definitely a leak in Portland Omaha because a lot of players tend to uh, just just bet too much when they have nothing. They think it's like no limit Omaha. Everyone believes that their initiative will take down the flop, but in Portland Omaha, it's not necessarily true. So always be careful on the flop that you don't c-bet too much, especially when you have nothing. Like if you have top pair, or maybe better would be two pair, or you have some kind of draw or backdoor draws. Definitely worth c-betting, especially when you're in position. But when you're out of position, it's not worth it. I think so far I made about 2 or 3 plays that I really didn't like, especially that one play on table number 2 against Django where I lost half a blind. But as you can see, even if you're playing your B game, it's possible to be up very big. 7763, just junky hands at under the gun. I'm not getting dealt too much great cards on table number. Oh, we got it straight. On table number 1. Queen, queen, 9, 4, suited queen. I definitely call any raise or open raise from the button. And we do have that small blind. He's a short stacker, but he's playing very tight and he'll probably fold. I'll raise this one on the button against that limper at under the gun, and I call back. And I didn't like that. I like to raise that. And try to take that flop down. We have a gutter on table number 3. We're out of position, check back or bet. Yeah, I think we need to check back on table number 3. Just have a feeling like that. Yeah. I don't know if I like this. I think it hits the other player range. I think it hits my range too, but yeah, I think he has it. I think he has it straight, and I hope I give up on this river. I don't think I had any reads on him. I don't think I took any notes on him, so I think there's no point betting out on this river here. Nothing to take it down. Maybe he was calling down. I don't know what kind of hands he would be calling down with on that. Oh yeah. He bet full pot. He has nuts, so I think it would have been better if he started giving up on the turn. I think that was another spew on table number 3, so that's 2 big mistakes that I really didn't like on this session. Alright. So that's easy fold on table number 2. Table number 3 at the small blind. What do we have? Definitely a fold. Not worth playing. It's too spread out. However, if that hand was from the button on table number 3, I'd definitely call, but at the small blind, we're out of position and too much gaps. Too much of a gappy hand to call. Definitely a really awesome card on table number 1. We have double suited kings and really good connectivity with 9-8. It's a hand that if someone jammed on us, I would just get all in and just see how the board plays. Table number 2, I'll definitely raise that. I guess maybe not. Playing pretty tight. I guess 9-9. I mean, I stated before that 9-9 pair's not that great. And we have a gutter and a second nut flush. I'm going to bet close to pot on this. If the Django re-raise, we'll just get it all in with him. We have ace. Now we'll barrel again. He has an ace. If he re-raises, we'll just, if he calls again, we'll give up on the river. Definitely worth 2 barreling on that. We'd have second pair and open-ended straight draw and a second nut flush draw, and we'll definitely bet fold this river. Yeah, I think we have to bet fold this, maybe close to half pot. Yeah, 450, and if you re-raise, we'll fold. Hopefully he calls us down with 10 high. 10 high of diamonds. And hopefully I check back on the replayer. And he had, awesome, 4 high, 4 diamonds. And I guess he had a gutter for a straight draw too, but I had a better open-ender with 9 high straight draw. He really had nothing, so that kind of proves that he's also a total fish. Calls down with 4 high flush. Awesome. Write it down. And that's a player I lost a half stack to. So hopefully we can get more money from him. And my problem is, although these tables are super good, my attention span wavers, so I do have to sit up for like 2 to 3 hours before I can play another session. So that's one thing I wish I could do. If I could play non-stop for say 3 hours, I would, especially on this soft tables such as these 3. But unfortunately I can't do that, and I tend to make a lot of mistakes, and that's what you should do. If you know what your attention span is, so whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours, now don't go over that, and rest well between sessions, so that when you come back, you're fresh and you're able to play optimally against these different player types. What's happening here? I guess I'm sitting out. Yeah, it's pretty close to the end of my session, I guess, because I already played 1 hour and 4 minutes. So usually when I'm playing when I'm feeling really good, I try to play it like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, but that's stretching it. But usually 1 hour, hour and 50 minutes, that's usually my average, and I'll come back 2 hours later. Oh, too bad I'm folding that hand on table number 3. Folding the table on table number 3. I do have some good hands. Definitely a raise on table number 2. And we have middle pair, backdoor flush draw, heads up. We're going to check back since we're out of position and give up on that hand. And we're going to fold on table number 1. It's not worth calling. There's a made straight, possible straight. Oh, jeez, I've called. Yeah, that's not worth calling there. What do you have? A straight, I think. No wonder I saved this session. There's a couple of four mistakes that I made here. 2 really big ones, I think. So we're sitting out on table number 3. On table number 1, we're going to fold. Yeah, we're going to fold that. Although that's a nice raise. Table number 2, we'll definitely raise if we're folded to. If anyone open raise, we'll definitely call since we're in position, although we have a dangler. We'll definitely open raise table number 2. I'm going to probably finish off pretty soon too. I think we're well over an hour on this. Oh yeah, we're going to definitely bet out on this, especially when everyone calls. I mean, if everyone checks back, we'll definitely call this. I think it's worth a call. We do have a gutter, possible flush draw, backdoor flush draw, so definitely a call at the button. Easy call, and we hit the nuts, and we're gonna definitely. I think we could just call to any bet or re-raise. 10, awesome. Yeah, and we're gonna barrel again, and we're gonna finish this session with this last hand, and hopefully he calls us. So we basically got our money back. So, whoa, you know what? Let's look at table number 1 and we'll fold that. Because we have ace-ace. So ace-ace, we're definitely re-raising. It's double suited aces, but no connectivity. Okay, on that kind of hand, when there's a possible made, when there's a possible made straight, and we have top set, we always have to bet out on that hand if he checks back. And if he does bet, say, a dollar, $2, we're going to definitely float one street, but give up on the turn. So let's see what happens. So we bet close to pot, good. We do have a gutter, and we take it down. And with that, whoa, one more hand, table number 1. We have a really nice queen here. We have suited queen, and we have good connectivity. We could definitely call with that. Geez, yeah, we'll definitely call. We have to play that hand because it's just side cards are very well connected. But being suited to the queen is not that great. But the queen, we have a chance of hitting top set, and we do have not much. And we're going to fold that. Hopefully I fold that. Fold table number 2. And we're going to fold that hand. Yeah, then we'll end this video. And this is how I review my sessions sometimes, because like sometimes, you know, when you go over all your hands, it gets a little bit too routine, and I find going over my pre-record session a different way, a different method of reviewing my play, and it kind of gives me an idea of how I'm playing overall, like whether I'm aware of the different types of players at the table, and making sure that I'm taking proper notes, and also making sure that I'm labeling all the players properly, which is really important because, you know, when you're playing these ring games, you're going to see some players quite often. Maybe not at the lower stakes, like if you're playing 2 PLO or 5 PLO or even 10 PLO. I mean, you do get random players often, but when you start playing like 25, 50, 100 PLO, you do see some regulars. And if you have them tagged or have some notes on them, it's definitely a huge advantage that you can take advantage of when you find yourself in a tough spot on the turn or the river. So this ends my session review of myself, and we did find some errors that I made, both 4 or 5 spots. I think 2 big spots. And hopefully you can use this as a method of finding your leaks in your own game. So I'll see you guys on the next video.